I'm Kim Strobel, and this is She Finds Joy. I've known what it's like to feel knocked down by life, my friend, questioning my worth and wrestling with fear and self-doubt. But what I've learned is that inside every adversity lies the seed of something greater. What grew from that struggle was a mission to help others rise, face the hard stuff, and step fully into their own version of greatness with joy and happiness leading the way. I'm a truth-telling, real-talk happiness coach who believes in giving you zero fluff, no BS advice, just the tools and mindset shifts that actually move the needle. Welcome to the space where small steps lead to big joy. Hi, everyone, and thanks for being back here on the podcast. Today, I actually want to talk about something that happened to me last Friday. So every month, we have our yard sprayed for mosquitoes and ticks. And we use Mosquito Joe, and it seems like there's a lot of turnaround and employees there. And so we had someone new who started this year in April. And his name was Cameron. And I noticed right out of the gate that Cameron was full of charisma. He was very professional. He listened to me explain that we're having this huge issue with ticks and that my dogs are coming in the house with ticks. And I noticed from right out of the gate that he went above and beyond in how he treated our yard. He did multiple paths down the woods. He did all around the woods. Some areas he did them twice, and he sent me a really nice text message after telling me everything he had done. Well, I noticed that every month when Cameron came, I always took a moment to go outside just to go over everything, say hello to him, even though that's not necessary. You don't even have to be home when they come, but I was just used to many times getting a different person each time who didn't know where our yard lines are and where to spray. But I got Cameron again the second time and Cameron again the third time. And I kept telling him, Cameron, you are just so good at this. You're one of the best we've ever had. You're doing such a great job of making sure that you're spraying all the woods. And I just continued to converse and get to know him. This past Friday, when Cameron came, I again was outside talking to him, and he was telling me that he had been to three of his 9-year-old's baseball games this week. And this kid looks pretty young. And I said, oh my gosh, Cameron, you have a 9-year-old. And he said, yeah, I'm 24 and I had him when I was 14. And he said, I also have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, all with the same lady. She's my fiance. But he said, it was really hard. He said, when I was 14, she got pregnant, and he said, nobody can hire 14-year-olds, and I needed to be able to make an income. And so the only thing I figured out I could do was I strapped a gas can onto my back and I pushed a push mower around town trying to get yards to mow because it was the only way I could earn income for my young family. And I was so moved by this young man who didn't really, I guess, have any kind of support system and had to try to figure all of this out at the age of 14. And I was explaining to Cameron that I too had to do and hustle in a little bit of a different way, but that when I was 26 years old, I was the mother of a 2-month-old baby. I was going through a divorce, so I was a single mom of a 2-month-old. I made $8 an hour as a program assistant because at that time there were no teaching jobs available, believe it or not. And so I struggled to make ends meet. So when they asked for somebody to ride the special needs bus in the morning for an hour and in the afternoon for an hour after school, I volunteered to do so because that generated an extra $16 a day. And 16 times 5 days a week was $80. And back in the year 2000, my son's daycare bill was $80 a week. And so I was just explaining to Cameron that at one time in my life, I lived paycheck to paycheck. I also hustled and did a full-time job and several part-time jobs just to make ends meet. And he and I just had this really heart-to-heart conversation. And I was just so moved by this young man who shows up and does an excellent job with my yard every month, goes above and beyond, puts pellets in my flower pots for me just as an extra thing to do. I had a baby bird's nest on the deck, and he would always make sure that he was real careful when he was spraying the deck for bugs, that he didn't, get near the baby bird nest. He's just an astounding young man. And so I said, Cameron, would it be okay if I were to take a picture of you in front of your Mosquito Joe van and do a post about Facebook? Because I think people need to hear these stories, because lots of people have struggled or they're in the struggle, and these stories inspire others. And he was very excited and let me take his picture. And so I did a post to Facebook, and it kind of went crazy. Everybody was commenting and saying what a wonderful young man, how inventive and creative it was for him to do what it took to take care of his family, his work ethic. They were just commenting so much. And I got a text message from Cameron later that night, and I want to read it all to you because it shows you that a little small kindness, just hearing someone's story, connecting to them, taking time out of our day for a few minutes to meet and talk to the person who delivers our mail or services our house or cleans our house, or the people, the cashier at Walmart. These little moments throughout the day, when we can make others feel seen and heard and valued, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's the point of me doing this podcast episode today, because I was so moved by this story. And you can actually go to my Facebook, Kim Sablehouse Strobel. You can see the picture of Cameron in front of the Mosquito Joe truck. This would have been posted around July 10th, because I'm recording this on July 14th, even though it's probably not airing until later. Hello, friends, and thank you for letting me interrupt for just a moment. I want to be honest with you. So many people that I meet with feel stuck or unhappy, or maybe even a little disenfranchised in their work lives or even their home lives. They're working hard, but many times the value they bring simply doesn't match the paycheck they get. And when life feels overwhelming, it's really easy to slip into toxicity, blame, and victimhood. But here's what I know. We can acknowledge the heart of our lives and still shift towards hope. We can take back our personal agency and start creating joy, meaning, and energy no matter what's happening around us. And when we do that, we start showing up as a different version of ourselves in our work lives, but also in our personal lives. That's exactly what I do with people through my keynotes. I blend research, stories, and strategies that show audiences how you can move from burnout into breakthrough. And let me tell you, when you learn to reclaim your power, you take ownership of your life, I promise you, that is when you move the needle in every single area of your life. If you are a school or an educational conference, you can reach out at strobeleducation.com. And if you're a business, a Fortune 500 company, an organization, you can reach out at kimstrobel.com. Share this episode with them. My goal is to share and get this message out so people hear these stories. They don't just hear these stories from me on a stage talking or from social media, but they hear the impact of these tiny, small little acts of kindness. So please share this episode with a friend, a family member, or someone that you think needs to be uplifted or encouraged today. And go out and practice your own random acts of kindness. Thank you so much for joining me on the She Finds Joy show today. I'm truly honored that you chose to spend your time here with me, my dear friend. If this episode brought you encouragement or a fresh perspective, I would be so grateful if you took a moment to leave a review. Just head to kimstrobel.com/review. And what it does is it helps more people find these important conversations. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Thank you again for listening in. I am so very grateful, my friend, to walk this journey with you. I also want to encourage you to share this episode with everybody in your life you care about. We all need encouragement and real talk. Thank you for listening and watching. I believe in you for being able to create a life that feels good from the inside out. Remember, you are deserving of joy and happiness.